Hello, Jim 12's here again. Today is the 7th of May 2026. Today I'm asking the question, what if there is no climate crisis? What would be our future if we realised that there no longer was, or never had been, a climate crisis? So this is number 12 of my series going through the chapters of my book While We Were Sleeping, a Wake-Up Call for All Christians, available on Amazon. Do have a look, ebook or paperback. I've also got a piece in the Daily Declaration from yesterday on climate change, chapter 12. So do have a read of that, because material in there is not mentioned here. I'm doing a different reflection here. So, what if there's no climate crisis? What are the consequences? What could we look forward to? First of all, there'd no longer be any need or cause for fear, particularly for younger people who are, I suspect, subconsciously, maybe consciously, gripped by fear. So much so that I understand that some people, some couples, are deciding not to have children because of their fear for the future of the planet. And they don't want their children to grow up in a situation which is so dire. And if you think about it, if we're removing fear from society, or eliminating this aspect of fear, should I say, then arguably we would become a less self-centered people, and we'd be able to empathize with other people and their other people's situations a lot more effectively. Another consequence would be, and it's already happening, the deserts are shrinking. Yes, the planet is greening because, yes, there is an increase in CO2. I'm not denying that, but I'm saying it's not causing a climate crisis. Yes, third world countries have found themselves able to get better food production because their crops are growing better, because there's more CO2 in the atmosphere. Isn't that a good thing? Jordan Peterson brought this to my attention on a video a couple of years ago, and funnily enough, that video has now been taken down. If we no longer are living in a climate crisis, then there would no longer be the necessity to be complicit in human rights violations in the third world, which are basically where China is digging out of the ground copper, cobalt, lithium for the green revolution. And they're also committing child slavery violations, and we would no longer be buying the products of their inhumane treatment of others. We would ban solar panels and wind turbines from being imported from China. Big dollars there. Instead, we'd be exploring alternative energy production technologies. Yes, we wouldn't give up research, but we would do so without submission to an ideology and a dependence on government subsidies. So the true technology, the true science, would actually determine what is effective and what isn't. If there was no climate crisis, we would be developing cleaner and more efficient production from fossil fuels. Yes, we're doing that, I know, but with a much greater energy and drive. we would no longer be destroying pristine environments with massive solar farms and wind farms, and also destroying native landscape with expensive new power grids from locations that previously never had a power grid. A huge additional expense, and I wonder how much of that is related to our rising energy costs. We would no longer be blanketing the landscape with battery farms to store the electricity made when the sun shines and the wind blows. Let's become self-sufficient in our energy needs, using oil, gas, coal, and only exporting the excess to other countries to boost our economy. It makes far more sense to use what we've got here for ourselves, less transport of tankers and massive freight ships around the world, huge expense and cost of fuel. Let's develop nuclear energy. I remember France being arguably one of the leaders of the world, if it wasn't the leader, in terms of nuclear power production. From the 70s, it was a huge amount of their fuel energy coming from nuclear. So we locate these nuclear plants next to cities, yes, because that's where the demand is, and we want to minimize the transmission distance and cost. The further we transmit electricity, the more we lose, and therefore the more inefficient it is. Let's put them by the sea for safety, yes, and also for the supply of water. Let's rebuild or build new refineries, petrochemical refineries, near to demand and also near to the resource that is being used. We got rid of our our petrochemical refineries because they were outdated and inefficient, and we basically offshored them, as I'm sure we know, and we've only got two partly working ones at the moment in Australia. But let's build a swag of new ones which are efficient and safe. And finally, let's return our economy to a firm footing. And at a stroke, we could reduce families' expenses by slashing the power bills. The current government promised to do that in their election bid, but let's do it by actually not being reliant on the intermittent blessing of solar and wind power. So reducing our cost of living would also be reducing the government subsidies, which would again boost our economy. We would no longer be subsidizing solar, wind, batteries and electric cars, and we would let market forces really run free. Wouldn't that be a novel idea? So if there is no longer a climate crisis, I think the benefits for us individually and for the environment and for this country as a whole would be immense. We would no longer be at the dictate of world powers that seem to be calling the shots. Let's call the shots ourselves. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been provocative. If it has, please write a comment, ask a question. I love questions, I love comments. Thank you. Bye for now. Until next time. Bye.